Namaskar. In today's satsang, in this episode, we are going to talk about arti. What is arti? Now, arti is a very typical Indian and that too in certain ways Hindu format, which we find as part of a lot of Hindu prayers and Hindu celebrations. Now, we must understand when we say Hindu celebrations, this religion Hindus are not really just one religion as such. If you go back in history, you will find that in India, in this part of the world, there were many, many different religious practices. People would actually follow a variety of different practices, and all of these were allowed. These were all kind of considered as ways or ways to seek the ultimate. People were trying to seek answers to ultimate questions, and people of this area, this land, would would employ different methods to do the seeking. And these different methods resulted in different kinds of religious practices. But when outsiders came from other parts of the world and they saw within the huge diversity within this region, they kind of were flummoxed by this whole idea of diversity. And all of it were kind of clubbed together into one name called Hinduism. Otherwise, in what is called the Hindu religion, in the ancient scriptures, we don't even see the mention. We don't find Hindu or Hinduism mentioned anywhere. The terminology has always been Sanatan, which means something that is not restricted with time, is eternal, endless, infinite. Those are the kind of concepts that have. So, in order to express something that is Sanatan, means eternal, infinite, which doesn't have any manifestation, because anything that manifests is not infinite, or anything that manifests is not eternal. So the unmanifest, in order to find it in the manifested world, people would use different kinds of religious practices which would different symbolisms in the manifest world. These were the variety of practices. So Hinduism in that sense is a variety of conglomeration of different religious practices. And if you go beyond this conglomeration, those who do not consider themselves part of any conglomeration like this, but a separate identity like Islam or Christianity or any of the other religions, if you look at them, you will always find that there is a concept of satsang. Satsang means basically just those who are trying to engage in self-development, who are trying to take their own selves upwards, towards the developmental path. These people who are part of a self-developmental trajectory, these people, when they hang together, when they kind of hang around together and try to engage in an activity which will lead to self-development, this is what is basically termed as satsang. Sangha means a group together, and sat means anything that has some intentionality of goodness, of beauty, of truth. All these together is called sat sang. The word sat purely means true, but in these kind of things, when the word sat is used, it really is an integration of all that is good, true, and beautiful. Satsang are you will find, no matter which religion you try to delve into or you try to study or practice, you will find there is some form of satsang in it. And within the satsang, when people hang around together and they're trying to engage in something that is developmental, you will find there is a design of something which engages the body fully and in motion. It kind of gets the body into motion, and it gets the energy kind of jumping around or dancing around, that kind of an energy. And there is the mind is also, it expresses its devotion or its sense of surrendering and all of that through this sense of bringing a sense of lightness into the body and dancing around and all that kind of thing. So that whole concept of tan pran manchit of your physical, energetic, mental and spiritual being kind of integrating into this format where you are a bit of lightly dancing around, and that is what is called arti. And you will find it in every religion. It's just called arti in India when we are talking about Hinduism. But every religion you look at, you will find this kind of practice that has been woven into the religious practices by all those people who were designing these practices. Now, in our Fit for Life program, saadhana-paddhati or deep committed practice, this process of practicing, daily practice, we have included the StamiFlex Aarti precisely for the same reason that something like an Arti is included in almost every great religion around the world. Now, what is the real background to this Arti? Why is it included? For that, we really have to understand the meaning of the word Arti. Traditionally, the word Arti in Sanskrit kind of traces its roots to two words. One of it is called Ari. So Ari means enemy, and the other part of the word is Trayate or Tran. Tran means relief or savior, saving. When you save something from something, it's called Tran. In India, we have the Prime Minister's Relief Fund or Chief Minister's Relief Fund, which is a fund that is dedicated to save people during calamities. If there is a flood or if there is a big fire or if there's an earthquake or a pandemic, then you suddenly need extra funds to relieve people from all this. That is saved in the Prime Minister's or the Chief Minister's Relief Fund. So that's called Tran Tahbil, that is relief fund. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most important and famous and celebrated shlokas says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. Means the Bhagavan Sri Krishna is saying that Paritranaya sadhunam, all that is good, true and beautiful, in order to save that, and in vinashaya cha dushkritam, in order to destroy that which is not good, that is evil, in order to destroy the evil and save the good, I will emerge in different ages. That is what, as an avatar, he is saying to Arjuna. So, and that is a very celebrated shloka, Paritranaya sadhu. So there also we see Tran, relief, saving, save. So Arati also derives itself from Arinam Trayate. It means saving ourselves from the enemy. Ari, enemy, Tran, relief, or give ourselves relief from the enemy. Now, when we are saying this, which is that or what is that enemy that we are talking about? Who is that enemy? Where does it reside? Now, in our lives, if we look around, we will find enemies all around us. Within a family itself, you will find a family might be, very nicely disposed to each other. Then suddenly something happens and two brothers are fighting against each other. Then these two brothers have become each other's enemies. Sometimes the son is the enemy of the father. Sometimes the husband and the wife, they have fallen in love, and for years they have been in love and all that. Every day they cannot spend the day without saying, I love you 5 times a day, etc. and all of that. And then suddenly one day you see all this declining and they have started becoming enemies of each other, and then it leads to divorce and whatnot. So enmity we find inside the family. If you look a little outside that, you will find the family may be very united, but it is fighting with the neighbor because the neighbor is doing something that they don't like. So there is opposition between the two, so they have become enemies. Sometimes you find this a little, in a wider sense, a neighborhood has become an enemy of the other neighborhood, or a particular city or town is animosity or enmity with another town or city or another state, another area. The most celebrated enmities that we find is between countries. One country is a friendly country with the other, but an ally of the other, but an enemy of the other, and there are wars that are fought just in the name of this enmity. Well, we also find enmity somewhere else. You may be a supporter of a certain soccer team or a baseball team or a basketball team, and you are suddenly you in a particular game that is going on, which is a sport. You find yourself almost in enmity with the supporters of the other team. The teams are playing each other. It's just play, but still, as a supporter, you are an enemy, and sometimes it leads to real pitched fights, which leads to fires and people die. These have happened. So we see enmity and this feeling of animosity or enmity creeping in anywhere, anytime. So this possibility of the enemy just creeping in is a very dynamic possibility. It can be found anywhere. Now, extrapolating this or interpolating this, if the enemy can be found anywhere, can I find the enemy within myself also? Can I find my enemy within myself? Of course. The scriptures point out to this. They talk about jealousy, they talk about anger, they talk about hatred, they talk about greed, they talk about fear, they talk about lust. All of these, especially I'm talking about Indian or Hindu classical scriptures, where again the term Hindu is not used, but these have been used over and over again. These kind of states of our being: anger, greed, hatred, fear, lust, all of these kind of things, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, irsha, matsarya, these are terms that are used. Now, these are, of course, we know that these are our enemies which reside within ourselves, because when these kind of feelings engulf us, they tend to pull us down. They tend to take us down into the depths of our own possibilities. So we know these are evil forces. Not always, but sometimes they could be very evil forces. The evil forces could play through these feelings. Now, apart from this, modern psychology, other than the scriptures, modern psychology points to other things like denial, like projection. When you deny the existence of these feelings or forces within you, you fall into another trap, that of denial, and then you project the denial onto other aspects of your life. These are things that modern psychology teach us. Similarly, there is laziness, alas in Indian languages we call them. Then there is ignorance. Ignorance is a laziness of the mind. We don't want to make our mind do hard work any point of time. We may be very knowledgeable, but someone asks a question and you say, I don't know. That I don't know is a sign of ignorance. You always know something about everything, but you say, I don't know. So that's a symbol of or a sign of your mental laziness. You could have expressed what you knew about that particular thing that was being asked. So laziness and ignorance and all of these violence, these also are enemies that reside within ourselves. So when we are talking about arti, or specifically StamiFlex Aarti that we engage in at least 3 times a week, we are really trying to practice or bring in a practice within our saadhana-paddhati, which will help us deal with these enemies that are hiding within our own selves. That's all that we have for today, folks. Take it easy. Take care. Namaskar.